Okay, so I know I promised you guys this video a while ago, but I'm sorry it took me pretty much a month to get to filming this and putting it out there, so I apologize for that, but life happened and I'm filming it now. I've actually had quite a few people telling me, you know, they're really looking forward to this video, so I'm happy to finally be taking the time to sit down and film this. So in today's video, I'm going to be going into depth about a few of the things that we DIY'd at our wedding, so things that we did ourselves. In my last video that I posted, I talked about ways to save money for your wedding, ways to keep costs down, things that we did to keep the costs down, and a big thing that was in that was doing a few things ourselves. So that was like a big part of the video, but now I'm gonna go into a little bit more depth on how we actually DIY these things so that you can do them too. I really hope this encourages y'all to do a few things yourself for your wedding, because again, that did save us a lot of money, and it was really fun and empowering to kind of do those things ourselves and be able to see those things on the wedding day. And they were just so perfect the way they came out, because we got to like hand pick everything and do it exactly how we wanted. So I definitely encourage you to do a few little DIY things, and I hope this video encourages you to do that. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump on in, because I feel like I kind of have a lot to talk about. So the first thing that we're gonna talk about is flowers. That's kind of the main thing that I would say saved us money, was doing the flowers ourselves. So the first thing that I'm going to do as I go through each one is talk about what you will need for each little DIY section. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you exactly what you're going to need to do your own flowers, or what we needed. So actual tangible things that you are going to need is a flower source, obviously. So we used Trader Joe's. The next tangible thing that you are going to need is some floral tape. I think my mom just got it at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or somewhere like that. I'm sure you can order it off Amazon. We also used our wedding ribbon to tie around the flowers. We got our wedding ribbon off Amazon. I will link them down below. They're really pretty, and there was a bunch of different colors, so we used that. You will need some kind of cutters, scissors. I think we just used a really good pair of scissors. I'm sure they have floral scissors, but I don't really think that you need that. We also used some little like pins for the boutonnieres. My mom kind of did that, so I'm not exactly sure, but I think she really just pinned it on to the guys. And again, she tied floral tape around the stem of it, so it was pretty stiff. The next thing that you'll need is vases. Obviously for some of the centerpieces, we got ours at IKEA. I'll go into more depth, but I'm just kind of telling you guys what you actually need. I think that is actually it. Obviously you need flowers, but that's kind of a given. Okay, so that's basically all that you need. It's not that much stuff. So I'll just kind of start from the beginning on how we did our own flowers. So I had been doing some research, and I saw that Trader Joe's was a really good source of flowers. So we drove to the closest Trader Joe's to us. Hopefully you guys have one around you. If you don't, check out other stores that carry flowers. Maybe H-E-B. I know that's kind of solely in Texas, but just find a good grocer. What was it? Oh, Sam's. I saw online that Sam's, I don't know how much they do it, but I know you can buy flowers in bulk from them. So look into that if maybe a Sam's is the only thing around you. But any kind of local grocery store that has like a floral selection, just ask them if they can provide something in bulk. So we went to our local Trader Joe's quite a bit before the wedding. I would say maybe like a month or two before the wedding, I can't remember exactly, just to kind of look at everything and ask them how it works. So I would suggest doing that with wherever you choose. So we walked in, we looked at the flowers, we talked to like the manager of the store or whatever, and asked them how it worked. They do weddings often, so she knew what she was talking about. So again, I suggest talking to someone who is kind of in that field, or a grocery store that does weddings. Like, you're not the first one, don't do that. So we talked to her and we kind of told her what we were looking for. I wanted something really simple. That was another reason why we chose to do the flowers ourselves. I would suggest if you are doing something really elaborate, maybe that's somewhere that you can put into your budget to get those made. But because I wanted something so simple, we decided to do it ourselves. So the main flower that we wanted was roses, because they're a little bit more reasonably priced and easy to find. We knew that they would have roses because they're very common. So we wanted pretty much white everything. I wanted white flowers because again, it was easy, it was simple. I like the look of white flowers. Now there was some flowers that had a little like peach or pink hue to it, but I was totally fine with that. So when you go in, you look at the flowers, and obviously you ask what flowers are going to be there in season, because maybe when you go to talk to them, it'll be a different season when you actually get the flowers from them, so they'll know that. I would suggest picking quite a few different flowers, but I would focus on one main flower. Like ours was roses, and I knew they would have that. So I would pick one main flower that is a good price. You know that they're gonna have maybe something like baby's breath or something like that. I think that would be another good choice as well. Carnations, those are very affordable. Hydrangeas can be more expensive, but they actually had a lot. Like hydrangeas was one of the main flowers that we could pick from, so we had a few of those as well, and those take up a lot of space. So basically we told her kind of what we wanted. We tried to kind of calculate in our head how many dozens we would want, because that's kind of how they go by, like this many dozen of roses, this many dozens of carnations or whatever. So I would definitely kind of in your head calculate about how much you will need. I would say that we did have some leftover flowers, but we did a pretty good job. I, for some reason, want to say we did about 30 dozen total of stuff, but I honestly can't remember, so I don't know. But again, every wedding's different, so kind of calculate how many you'll need for bouquets, boutonnieres, the table setting, some extra here and there. I mean, again, for a boutonniere, you need like 1 or 2 flowers. Again, we wanted something really simple, so I just did 1 rose. So yeah, just kind of calculate that so you can go in there knowing how many dozen of each thing that you want. And again, I didn't know exactly all the flowers we would want, but I knew I wanted roses. So I just kind of looked around, talked to her, talked about what season things would come in, and we picked about maybe 5 different flowers. So I would suggest maybe something like that. And then we told her how many dozen, we put in the order, and we came to pick up the flowers 2 days before the wedding, so they're fresh. So we came 2 days before the wedding, picked them up, brought them home, and that's when we started making all the bouquets, boutonnieres, centerpieces. So the vases we got from IKEA, like I said, and I would suggest going somewhere like that where you can buy things in bulk. So I don't know if like Costco or Sam's would have vases in bulk. I assume maybe online. Amazon would be another good place, but we chose IKEA, and they were pretty reasonably priced. I think we got like 50 vases for the tables, so I think that's about how many vases we got. So yeah, 2 days before the wedding, we just basically were making little arrangements, and we started making the bouquets, and we used the floral tape to hold the bouquets together. Basically, we would just cut the stems of the flower. I hope you guys know how to do that, but basically you kind of cut in a diagonal, the bottom, however long you wanted them. I kind of wanted long stems because I think that looks more like wild and organic, but you cut the end of the stem in a diagonal, and I've just heard that that's how you do it. So then we made the bunches like that, used floral tape, and then we actually put them back in water once we were done making them. My mom made the little boutonnieres, and she actually got like a little plastic covering for the boutonnieres like you would usually see a corsage or a boutonniere. She made those and then just put them in there, and I think that was pretty much it. And again, we did the centerpieces and put them in the vase in water. Now bringing them to the venue, that was a different story. My mom and brother brought them, and apparently it was a fiasco getting them to the venue. Apparently some fell off the truck. Anyway, so I don't really know much about that, so definitely plan that out about how to get them to the venue as well. The last thing that we did with each bouquet is we used our wedding ribbon to tie around, and I kind of let some of it dangle at the end, and then we just pinned it back with a pin until we were ready to use them and unpinned it. That was pretty much it. It was pretty simple. It was time consuming, so definitely do this. Do not do this the day before the wedding. Do not do this the day before the wedding. Your flowers will be fine. Do it 2 days before the wedding. I think 2 days before was a really good time, so I suggest that, because usually the day before the wedding you have your rehearsal, you have so many things going on, so do not do this the day before the wedding. I also suggest getting a couple of your friends around to help you. My mom helped me, and my maid of honor, Amber. So it was really just the 3 of us, and really mainly them 2 while I was doing some other things. So it was really fun. We played some music, and again, the flowers were one of my favorite things, and I've had a few people ask us about the flowers. So I loved doing that. The last thing that I'll say about the flowers is I'll talk about like kind of what flowers we use for what, in case you really like ours and kind of want to do something similar. So for the girls, I just wanted them to hold simple roses, and that's literally all they held. And then for me, I held a little bit more roses, and then we added 1 orchid kind of falling out of the bouquet. Orchids are extremely expensive, so we, I think honestly, only got like 2 or 3 orchids, and it kind of comes in a long stem, and then they kind of hang off this, and we just Like, I think my mom just cut it off the stem or used the stem to go into my bouquet. I can't remember exactly, but orchids are really pretty. And then for Michael's boutonniere, we cut off one like flower of the orchid and we pinned it onto him. That one I would say withered away kind of quicker than the roses. The guys' boutonnieres lasted a little bit longer. By the end of the day, Michael's orchid boutonniere was totally gone. So just be aware of that. It was fine for pictures and everything, but by the end of the night, it was pretty much like gone just from all the movement, the dancing, everything. So they're a little bit more delicate than roses. Okay, so that's pretty much it for flowers. If you have any other questions, just comment down below or DM me on Instagram. I am more than willing to give you guys some answers about something if I forgot something. I'm gonna tell you guys how much we actually spent on all the flowers so that you can see if it was worth it for you. So when we were reaching out to floral companies to do our flowers before we decided to do them ourselves, I told them exactly what I wanted, very simple, very minimal, didn't want many big arrangements, and they quoted me, I think at first, like $4,000 or $5,000. Then I told them a few more things of how little we wanted, then they said about $3,000. So I just felt like that was too much for how simple I wanted, so that's why we decided to do it ourselves. Now, with the cost of the flowers, the vases, kind of everything included, I think it was about $800. Again, it could be a little more or a little less, but as far as I can remember, it was about $800. So let's just say under $1,000 versus $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And maybe for some people who want more arrangements, way more than that. So that definitely saved us a lot of money. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about our wedding welcome sign. Again, I showed this in the previous video, but I'll show a few pictures here. I loved our wedding welcome sign, and most people do want a sign, so this is another thing that I suggest you can do yourself. I didn't really like any of the ones that I saw online, and they were really expensive, so I'm glad I did it myself. So the things that you will mainly need for your wedding welcome sign is an app or a website to make this. I used Canva, so use something like that if you want to make it, or you can also purchase templates off like Etsy and places like that. Usually they're pretty reasonably priced. The next thing that you will need is PVC pipe. That's what we made for the stand. You will need some kind of spray paint. We used matte black spray paint. You will need a pipe cutter most likely. So we bought that, and then we always have a pipe cutter in case we ever really need it again. If you get everything, you can actually get things pre-cut, I think at Home Depot and stuff, but I don't know why we didn't do that. We just got a pipe cutter. You will also need some ribbon to actually hold onto the wedding welcome sign, and I think that that's it. I'm looking at my notes to make sure I don't forget anything, but I think that's everything that you will need. So I created my welcome sign on Canva. I pretty much made it from blank. Again, I didn't see anything that I really liked. I wanted it really simple, so I made it on Canva. So I went to Home Depot to get this printed out, and I sent them the correct file format of the sign that they needed, the one I created. And then they basically just printed it however big I wanted. We used foam board for this, which is really light foam board, pretty much like a yard sign type feel. And they supply that at Home Depot. So if you tell them I want it this size foam board, they can print it for you onto foam board. I think ours was 2 by 3 feet, if I remember correctly. So just make sure that you get the right size that you want. We had ours vertically. You can do yours horizontally, however you want it. But we got that printed there. That was a little more expensive than I thought. I'll talk about price at the very end, but it was a little more expensive to get it printed than I thought, but probably still cheaper than getting a whole stand from somewhere. So we got that printed, and then the next thing that we did is we went to Home Depot or Lowe's, I think it was Home Depot, and we went to the PVC pipe area, and you kind of have to get the pipe based on the size of your sign, so it will be different for everyone. But for us, I think that we did a 5-foot stand because our sign was 3 feet, so we wanted it to hang off some from the top and have obviously space on the bottom too. So I think we got 5-foot stands. Now we couldn't find 5-foot PVC pipe, so I think we got one 10-foot, and we used the pipe cutter to cut it in half. And then I can't remember exactly what length we did on top. Again, this is going to be based on the size of your sign, but always obviously get pipes bigger than your sign because you want it to hang down and away from the actual pipe stand, if that makes sense. And then also you will need some pipes for the bottom to be its feet. You will also need some end caps of the pipes to make it look nice. And once you know your sign, the size of your sign and the size of the pipes you want, when you go to Home Depot, it will make more sense at what exactly you need. You might need to do some calculations and figure out what you need to cut, if you need to cut, what size of things like that. I will show videos of how we kind of did it, and I think that will help a little bit. So after we cut all the pipe together and we put the sign together, we brought it outside to spray paint. Again, we used matte black. I really suggest something matte. I feel like that makes it look nicer. So yeah, we just spray painted it, and then we took the foam board and with a really sharp knife, we cut really thin slivers on the top so that our thick, wide ribbon could go through. It didn't look the best when we were doing it, but once the ribbon goes through it, you can't really tell how jagged your cut is. So just be careful and be gentle with the foam board because it can bend. I will just say foam board is really light. It cannot go outside. It has to be inside because it will be blown away. So if you want something more heavy duty, you can, but then it gets more expensive, obviously. So yeah, we just tied ribbon around, and at first I couldn't decide if I wanted white or black ribbon, but I think we decided on white, and it ended up looking really nice. I think total we spent about 100 to 150. I can't remember exactly. It was like 60 to get it printed onto the foam board, and then we had to get the pipes, the paint, the pipe cutter, things like that, the ribbon. So it did kind of add up quickly, but again, I think $100 to $150 is not too bad for a nice welcome sign that you made yourself. You have it the way you want it to look. I'm sure you would spend maybe about that much, if not more, on getting one made from someone else customly, or buying one from somewhere. So the next thing that we DIY'd is my getting ready wedding robe. This one's pretty easy. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about it, but my mom gifted this to me and made it for me, so I don't know every single detail, but I know that she purchased a really nice satin white robe. I'm sure she got it online somewhere, but also you could go look at stores if you want to feel and touch it. I suggest getting this a little early in case you order a robe and you don't really like the way it feels. You can try another one, but she just ordered a plain, really nice white robe. And then I think she went to Joann's Fabric, so a nice fabric store, and got some like fuzzy fringe to go around the cuff of the sleeves. That's really what I was looking at when I saw some online, but they were like $80 to $100. So she did it herself, and I think she put it on the inside of the sleeve, which obviously looks nicer. You don't want to put it on the outside. I think that she sewed this probably by hand, but if you can't sew, I don't think that that's a problem. I would use hot glue. I know that sounds kind of weird, that's something for your wedding, but I don't think anyone would tell, and I would make it a thin line of hot glue and no one will know. And she also added a piece of her old wedding dress here. Again, I think she hand sewed that. So if you can sew or know someone who can sew, get them to help you, because I think it will look nicer than hot glue, but you can hot glue something. I think it will be fine. So again, because she gifted this to me, I don't know how much she spent, but obviously it would be less than $80 like the ones I was seeing online that I liked that had the fringe. So yeah, I definitely suggest doing up your own getting ready robe because they're so expensive out there. And if this is something you want to spend your money on, then by all means do it, but you can make a really plain white robe really cute. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is our little decorations that we put on everyone's plate at the reception, and they're these little verse cards. This was again one of my favorite things that we did. It just had a really special touch to it, and it had one of our favorite verses on it about, the whole day, about getting married, about love. So it was just perfect. So you will need some kind of really nice paper. We use like a vintage looking cardstock paper. You will need some ribbon and a hole puncher and like a Word document or something like that. That's pretty much it. So we got cardstock paper, I think from Michael's or Hobby Lobby. It was kind of like a yellowy type color, so it looked used and worn. And my mom and I got onto Word, typed in the verse, made it, the cool font that we want, and then we placed a lot on each page, printed it out onto the cardstock paper, and then we very carefully just ripped each one so that it had kind of a ripped, jagged looking edge, and again looking used and worn. And that was pretty much it. We used a hole puncher to punch a hole, and then again we used our wedding ribbon to tie onto each one, and I liked to use different colors so that I can bring color into the table and bringing back our wedding colors. I just think that they were so pretty, so special, and it could be something that guests could take home as a little gift or just a reminder. So that was really nice and very easy to do, an easy way to bring a pop of color to the table and kind of put your own special touch to it. I would say each verse card cost a couple dollars. I mean, it was very cheap to make because you buy ribbon, you cut ribbon into little pieces, so you get to use one ribbon for a bunch of little verse cards. We bought the paper. I don't know exactly how much each little card would cost, but very cheap to make. The last thing is gonna be another quick little thing because it's like half DIY'd, I guess, but it is our wedding invitations. We made them on Shutterfly. I talked about this on previous video if you want to know more about that, but we didn't DIY the cards or the invitations, obviously, because we used Shutterfly and we plugged in our information and they did all that. But binding them together and making them look really nice is what we did ourselves. Again, we used we used different colors again for the wedding invitations to tie them together and made them look really bound nicely so that when a guest would take them out of the envelope, they were all together looking wrapped up really nicely. Our wedding ribbon that we had was very thin. I was kind of worried that when we would tie them together and put them in the envelope, it would be too thick for the envelope, but because our ribbon was really thin, it worked. So if you have a wedding ribbon that you have and it's not thin, just go ahead and get another different kind of ribbon and maybe in your same colors that is really thin so that it can go in the envelope nicely. And how we bound them together, I didn't really know how to make it look really nice, like what cards to put where and how to make it look nice. So I just kind of looked up on YouTube, I think, how to make wedding invitations, put them together nice, if that makes sense. And it kind of showed me and it looked so pretty, and then we just literally tied them together. So that was the last little DIY that we did. I'm sure there's other tiny little things that we did ourselves that I couldn't really think of, but that's pretty much it. So I'm really glad that I could go into detail about this because, again, I know a few of you guys really wanted to know, and it's really fun to share. Again, if you guys have any more questions, I am very open to answering all things wedding. I hope me sharing some of this and even sharing some prices and what you'll need helps you guys. Ask away if you do have any more questions because I'm sure there is something I forgot, but that's pretty much it for now. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.